Welcome, everybody, to Layered Insights. I'm Alex,
I'm Matt.
and this is a 3D printing podcast. And this week, we're going to talk about something that is kind of at the core of like anyone that's passionate about 3D printing, or like what gets you into 3D printing is that. It's just that. It's how do you get into it, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
see it online, they think it's cool. Like, how do I get into it? The question I get a lot is, what 3D printer should I buy? But I think what we're going to try and talk about today is going from a hobbyist to working at a 3D printing company and then starting a company that wants to use this technology and just help businesses adopt that technology, even if you're in a business and you're trying to get your
Yeah.
team to use 3D printing. But yeah, Matt, run with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we both came from of like, oh, this is an awesome technology. And then it became cheap enough, right? For us to like, as an engineer, be like, okay, I can buy one and start designing my own stuff and, making stuff at home.
Hmm.
Um, but then I think, when we bought our first printers, which we've talked about,
Yeah, that was the pilot
uh,
episode, I think.
yeah, there was a lot more, it was a lot more of a hobbyist thing, I'd say,
Yeah.
where it was a lot more tinkering with the printer and playing with all the settings and stuff to learn how to get better prints
Hmm.
and, um, get better supports and get really good parts coming off the printer.
Yeah.
So I think now it's, some of the printers that are out are, I almost, they're not hobbyist printers really.
Yeah.
Because our first ones were kits and we put them together and there's a lot more tinkering that had to be done. While the new ones aren't so much a hobbyist, but I feel like
Hmm. I
you
mean,
can
even just like the setting up to being able to print was such a meticulous process
yeah,
back in the day, and you really almost needed an engineering degree or would have like played with electronics enough.
yeah, good with your hands and
Yeah.
building and different tinkering, fixing, repairing.
Hmm.
Now it's a lot simpler, but I think if you still strive for getting better parts and learning all the intricacies, it can still be very hobbyist, even if you don't pick up and build your own printer. That's more of a hobbyist style printer.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's like the entry point, right? Is how do I get into 3D printing? And I know, um, I mean, even if you have a list of 3D printers you would recommend, those change all the time. So really,
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, with how things have changed, there's probably three that you could probably jump with. And then from
I think,
there, it's like being a hobbyist, it's like you're gonna dive into like Thingiverse and printables, and you're gonna print
mhm.
all the fun things that you've never done before, and then you'll be filled with a lot tiny plastic parts everywhere.
Yeah, depending on your level of skill and knowledge. I think there's even an argument to be like, yeah, just buy the cheapest first printer you can, whether used or kit,
Mm,
and put that effort into, go through the struggle of making it and getting it to work well.
yep.
If you want to be more on the hobbyist side and really learn the skill instead of just, printing stuff for fun.
Right.
So there's almost an argument there. Be like, yeah, take the dive into the deep end of the water
Yeah.
and get the thing that's going to be harder to use.
I
And
think both of
then
us did that.
both of us did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then even for sure, I don't think we had much of a choice.
No,
And then
not at that time.
further down the line, right? Then you can buy maybe more of like your bamboo printer or X1 carbon or something that's, you know, works more out of the box, is less tinkering, because
Mm.
then you have all those skills from the other ones that you can apply and utilize these tools even better, I
Right.
think,
Right.
right? If you know, if the goal is maybe the goal is just to be hobbyist and have fun, but if the goal is to go to the next level and work at a company doing 3D printing, you actually probably want to go with the harder direction and
Mm,
learn everything from the ground up too.
100%. And that's I love that we're going there because I was going to do the same thing. And like, I was thinking hobbyist level, like, if you're getting into this from what you see on like your Instagram feed or like your TikTok feed, and you're seeing like these amazing prints that people are putting together, and you just want to do some like cosplay and like make some cool looking stuff, get like something like a bamboo or similar where it's all pretty much done for you. Buy like the finished Prusa because there's just a ton of stuff out there and just have fun printing things. Like if you don't
Hmm.
care about making money from your 3D printing or or you don't want to work for a company, then buy those. But if you, to your point, if you want to work for a company, the advantage of knowing all those little components that put together and what it takes to get a printed part gives you a perspective in the industry that is still to this day. It was even more rare when we jumped into the industry, but it's still so rare to have someone who is actually a practitioner and a daily user of a 3D printer. Never mind putting one together from scratch, even if it's with instructions, you know?
Yeah. I think even with the higher end bamboos are the ones that's easier to print. If you have
Yeah.
a very very analytical
Mm,
and you're very specific on how you want stuff to look, you will
mm,
notice blemishes or different things, even with these higher end printers that you might want to delve into and try to fix in the slicer or fix with the hardware and stuff. So,
yeah.
even we're still in a state where everything's not perfect, that you can still delve down deeper and try to improve even more.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I remember, and I want you to share yours too, but like when you first got in the industry and you had used a 3D printer and started talking with people, I mean, I was coming from the aerospace industry and I knew 3D printing because I was helping work on a project where we were trying to bid for a component made through, 3D printing of metal for like fan turbines for the F-35 strike fighter. Um, and so like I was looking at that's how I came into 3D printing was like, oh, we could do this. I've got to like create an Excel sheet to figure out how long it takes each layer to,
Yeah, yeah.
like, so that's where I come from from this. And then I
Uh,
started seeing the printers and then because I was in a manufacturing environment, I saw all these machines. I knew how much they cost. They're expensive. You're not going to just buy like a mill or a lathe for your own house.
oh,
And that's low
yeah.
end hardware that was in these places. And as far as capability. And then when I saw you could like buy one, it was just like, oh, that's a no-brainer. I want to see this. And then when I got in the industry, like, maybe this is just my naivety, but like I was like bright-eyed and like was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. I'm joining an industry where all of these people must know so much more about
Yeah,
this than
yeah.
me. And there were just tiny things that seemed obvious from my experience, not anything that was like groundbreaking reality, because
Hmm.
when you go to an engineering school, you see some really brilliant people. So you're like, damn, like that's a smart person right there. So I would go in and I'd be like, oh no, you shouldn't do that because of this. And it was like shocking how many people hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it wasn't coming from a place of I know better. It was just like, oh, that just seemed obvious to me.
Hmm.
That little advantage in the beginning, in a lot of different roles, helps you so much. And I think helps you make better relationships too when you're in the industry at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. So I started, I had my printing at home. Back in the day, I used to like go on Craigslist a lot. So I actually found someone that wanted a bunch of, small batch, maybe 200 parts printed. So I printed stuff for him. And then I think I got a new engineering job. I was doing microwave type systems.
Mm,
They had, I think, it's one of those cheap, I think it was a monoprice printer.
mm,
I think one of the persons that was there did 3D printing. So we'd mess around with it a little bit. And then at the time at home, I was, experimenting with the TPU very early on. So I brought that into the office and we actually started making some um, like covers for our waveguides and stuff. That was, super cheap. I
mm.
could produce them quickly. The lead time on those were like 6 months, and they were overly expensive from where we were getting them. So it was, I was able to, yeah, I was able to like just bring the hob. We had the machine there. I could bring the hobby and what I learned at home into the working environment and actually, give us, actually help us
Mm.
in a certain way. But then, from there, I did. The stuff happened with the company. I decided to move on. I
As
finally
as it
found,
does,
as it
as it
does,
does.
as it does many times, but uh, the I found a 3D printing company. I'm like, oh, this is I wasn't passionate about microwave systems. So 3D printing, I'm like, yes, finally.
Mm,
So I went in to interview for that, and I sat down with one of our friends that we both worked right there. It was a very technical interview,
mm,
and having being a hobbyist and trying to produce really good parts at home, him, even though it was still an FDM printer they were making, but there's a little bit more intricacies about what they were doing in their process and other stuff that the printer was doing.
yeah.
But like even being able to, even though there's a little bit of an aspect I didn't quite know about it yet, them showing me parts, being like, what are some flaws about this part?
Mm,
What went wrong with this part? What orientation was this part printed in?
mm-hmm.
How could this be fixed? Like, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of people, unless they've done this at home as a hobbyist, right, wouldn't be able to instantly just answer that question.
No, no.
Even uh, one of my last jobs, I was helping some people interview for like a lab manager, just like a college lab manager.
Mm,
And a lot of like I ask them not even this level of questions, but like simple questions just to get. I feel like there's a very easy way to make a list of questions to see if people really use the 3D printer and understand it. And like
yeah.
most of them, it's just like, yeah, you
What
really,
is your Z axis?
yeah, or even like offsets or simple
Yep.
stuff, questions about the extruder or
The
hot
part itself,
end.
I think, is such a cool because it's not quite the hard science of the electrical diagram and how the mechanical assembly
Hmm.
moves. It's about this system was made for a purpose. How
Yes.
well is it doing its purpose?
Yeah.
What can you discern from the part? What's going wrong with the machine and accomplishing
Yeah,
it?
right.
Yeah.
It's not just the machine. Right. It could be something wrong with the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Could be something wrong with slicing.
Yep.
Maybe how the supports were uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Material problem.
generated. Material problem. Yeah, material
Yep.
problem. Right.
Yep.
So it's a whole combination of things that you kind of have to I did IT when I was younger, so it's
Mm.
like same type of things. Like, okay, let's troubleshoot and bring it down to the core
Mm-hmm.
problem, how to fix it and where to go from there. So it's like just coming from the hobbyist space, so you're like easily able to answer a lot of those questions. And I think
Yeah.
me being able to just uh easily go through and answer them was kind of how I didn't have a process engineering job or a 3D printing job before this,
Mm-hmm.
but being able to come in with the core understanding and the problem solving and troubleshooting, it's a big upper hand. It's
Yeah.
like you said, I think a lot of the people that are working in the industry are not hobbyist 3D printer users at home. A lot of them don't even have 3D printers at home, right?
Yep.
So I think the first job I got lucky because one of the main people and you that I was working with had printers at home and had a very, very high level understanding of
Yeah.
what we were doing and how to fix the problems.
Yep. Yep. And man, that you had me flashing back to like so many like little moments about like you're talking about you worked in tech. Like for me, right before I got into the 3D printing industry, I was working at Apple as a Genius Bar tech.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, I
yeah.
was taking cases, so we were troubleshooting in front, belly to belly, person to
Hmm.
person, when their day is at the worst. The day is at this, my whole life just fell apart because this piece of
Uh,
technology that has everything on it has just failed me. It's your fault, fix it. And then doing that in a way that the business can actually stay profitable and we're not giving away favors, but we're still doing everything we can for the
yeah.
customer. That I went from that culture and environment, which for that kind of thing was great. I loved that job. I was pulling apart iPhones in the back with people, and like replacing cameras, batteries, whatever. It was a great job, in that respect. And I went from there to 3D printing, and I was on a side of engineering that I was never on, when I got into the industry. I went to the technical side of sales, the application
Yeah.
engineering role, and that fit so well. In the aerospace world, it was always about being behind a desk and not interacting
Yeah.
with other people, especially customers.
And
So it
that's
was a totally different like flip in my life. And then it rolled into this tech, 3D printing world that companies change over. That's happened many times in this industry. I'm sure it will continue to do so. But there's this really tight community within the 3D printing industry. So like if you're a hobbyist and you're like you've gone to all the videos and you've like learned everything and you're just sort of ready to just like level up into whatever next thing of 3D printing that you want to do, just getting into the 3D printing industry and working somewhere taps you into this small industry that like keeps people together. Like the two of us, when we've
yeah.
lost our jobs in the 3D printing industry, it was 3D printing people we've worked with in the industry
Hmm.
that have helped us the most, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things of entering working in the three, going from hobbyist to
Yeah.
working, it opens you up to this network of people that really do care about it, and you can learn a ton from other
Oh
people.
yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone, I mean, the technology is so vast and there's
Mhm.
just so many intricacies that everyone knows a tidbit of something else that you don't know. And I think even you made me think of like how different the jobs was. So like
Mm.
right, I came from just sitting, like you said, sitting down at a desk every day doing, either modeling or
Hmm.
drafting stuff or stuff like that to, I always wanted something more that was like 50-50 desk and hands-on.
Yeah.
And, that came with most of the time that came with the 3D printing jobs I've had is
Yeah.
I was able to do a lot of hands-on time, printing stuff, fixing stuff, making stuff, R&D. I think that's a lot of engineers is at least when they're at college, like, I
Yeah.
want to be hands-on and there's a lot of engineering jobs that just aren't.
No.
Um, but 3D printing is,
Yeah.
and if you're coming from that hobbyist background, you have the hands-on from just your printer at home. And I think that's a big plus.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a simple skill, like leveling the bed and getting past that hurdle of like fighting the system. I mean, I remember when we started, there were systems that were notorious online. People would talk nonsense about these printers where it was just like the printer itself couldn't get itself out of it being too out of level. And so
Yeah.
people would be turning bolts and like breaking their springs because they're trying to like follow what the printer is telling them. But that printer was built, that feature was built with an engineer knowing all of that up front. And that's this kind of like this big hurdle that I think the 3D printing industry still has to get around, even with the best systems. Bamboo Lab is the closest, but like those little things and features that will help, like what the iPhone does for all of the amazing things that it does on these smartphones that are just built around the user that doesn't know the technical background.
Yeah,
The
simplicity
3D
of it.
printing industry has so much
Yeah.
ground to gain there, and I don't know if it's going to happen from the industry itself, like the biggest industrial businesses itself.
Yeah, and I think
So,
the other key thing I think was, like you said, the bed leveling or just knowing the basic mechanics of your printer
mm,
and how to troubleshoot it. A lot of 3D printing is still layers,
hmm
so a lot of the machines are still going to be, they're still going to have some, even if you're sprouting powder or doing something else other
yeah,
than FDM or SLA, there's still going to be a lot of core concepts and key features and troubleshooting stuff that happens in all of them that are similar.
yeah,
So being able to understand it from like just a core mechanics and core understanding of how it produces parts
mm,
can get applied and adapted to these other 3D printing technologies that you might, work at other companies with. So
yeah.
it really helps you understand the other technologies and be able to troubleshoot the other technologies the same way you would with your at-home printer.
Yeah. And that's when you enter the dangerous world of wanting to solve a niche in the industry for other companies, and then you start dabbling with your own company in the 3D
Yeah,
printing
yeah.
industry.
You find
So
where it's lacking or the adoption of it is lacking.
Yep. Like, what I described with the education part of it, that's a giant opportunity that, in a lot of ways you can't expect a company that makes a 3D printer to also focus its efforts on when it has its own profit and its own,
Hmm.
mission to accomplish. And
Yeah.
so, I've seen education as a part of this for a long time. We've talked about that. And our company's focus, on the parts, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's a utilizing the 3D printing technology in your business as a whole, it's a whole different business model and
yeah.
process and everything that you have to learn and adopt, right? That people like don't think about. So like, oh, we'll just buy the machine and use it, right?
Hmm.
It's like, no, not really.
Yeah. Who
Uh,
told you that?
yeah. So even when it comes down to like pricing and design and everything, it's you need to actually know a decent amount to be able to get a good grasp of how it's going to fit
Yeah.
within your technology, within your company, and integrate with your technology and be used for your products or
Hmm.
however you're using it, R&D, you know?
Yep.
So that itself is it's a big learning curve that a lot of people and companies struggle to take on, and other companies struggle to help them with it and get them using the printers properly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's once you're in the industry long enough, or if you understand 3D printing enough, like there's so many different ways that, businesses could be created or internal businesses can use
Hmm.
uh 3D printers. When did you first realize that you wanted to create a business
Yeah, I
in
think,
3D printing?
it was after the first 3D printing company that I worked for went out of business. I think I was maybe a few months into, my new gig at a different startup. I was, I realized how hard it was to sell the technology, sell the printer,
Mm,
sell the process, have people adopt it. That was like, I got to figure out a better way to get more companies and people not necessarily using the technology, but like just using 3D printed parts,
mm,
going away from traditional manufacturing, seeing the benefits of 3D printing. So I was like, I want that to be kind of my just a greater adoption of 3D printing, whether
right.
it's buying printers or buying parts or whatever, just figure out a way
Mm,
for people to easily utilize it and breach, uh, get span that bridge that people have a hard time crossing. So I wanted
mm,
to, that was my mission statement was to get 3D printing in the hands of more people and more companies. So I saw how hard it was just to do.
mm,
And I thought I could bridge that gap with my own type of company and my own knowledge and services.
mm. Yeah.
Well, when was it for you? Because I think you had previously said it was even before you started working in the 3D
Yeah.
printing industry.
Yeah. I, so for me, what got me into 3D printing was learning from a tool maker who taught me about like manufacturing in your own home. Now, he had injection molding machines. I talked about this in the pilot episode, but so I won't talk too much about it. But like that led me to buying a kit online. And then once I got the kit online, it just became like obvious to me that like I could do this as a service. Like I
Yeah.
could I could do this for people. I could find people that need to make parts. I've been designing at that point for 10 years.
Hmm.
So, I was like, okay, like I could do this, and I started basically a parts business and a prototyping shop. And I think it was 2016. And after doing that for 2 years and just realizing that you could not only pay off printers, but like
Oh yeah.
this will run for a really long time. Let's get another printer in here.
Yeah.
I was doing things that nobody else was doing and had 3D Hubs was around at that time. And aside from 3D Hubs, people weren't really advertising
Yeah.
to the general public or even just other companies like someone could 3D print or like design a part for you. So I definitely had a lot of early opportunity in that area.
Yeah, you
And
saw it
then,
almost as a service right away that could be utilized, right?
yeah,
Especially with, your background of being able to design stuff too.
yeah, yeah. So that's where it started. And then I used that experience to leverage my way into the 3D printing industry. And the easiest role for me to get in was through the application engineering role. So, and then kept kept the business going, and work job comes first in a lot of ways. You can't let your work at your day job fail just
Yeah.
because you have a company. So I became a master in that area of balancing the two,
Mhm.
and still do it to this day. But it's a different. The company is very different today. Like now, it's more. Back then, it was about offering a service, but to show people what was possible with 3D printing. And because I
Yeah.
had come from the traditional manufacturing area, I knew that 3D printing wasn't going to replace traditional manufacturing, subtractive manufacturing,
Hmm.
and that more people weren't even looking at the different ways that 3D printing could solve problems that traditional manufacturing couldn't look at.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so like I was just kind of always like dialed into the extreme examples of the parts in 3D printing that really work.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of the business now is like I develop my own products, so I have a flair with that. So we have the Etsy shop and every other place that we sell stuff, and we still take on part cases for people. But with the part detective, it's like now it's about solving those mysteries because I just love the pain of the mystery of like getting a part into reality. Like that awkward, stressful, but beautiful process is what the part detective is all about. So, it's finding those people and doing this podcast with you. It's like this is that discovery portion of
Yeah.
the job that I didn't, after a while, I realized I just wasn't going to get from working in a 3D printing company. That's fine. I can find it elsewhere. Like it's one of the
Yeah.
cool things about what we do is like you've got the skill. You can go out and find it, you know?
I think it's funny because we both come from that kind of IT almost
Yeah.
background where it's like, right, like the core is problem solving and troubleshooting. And that's,
Hmm.
I think, what a lot of
On
what
the
we're
fly.
doing it on the fly,
Yeah.
right, is a lot of what we're doing.
Hmm.
I think it's I'd say it's one of the main skills. And then, yeah, I think, right, so even for me, it wasn't just the 3D printing as a service. It was like, I know there's companies out there without engineers that want some custom stuff that just don't have the knowledge. So it's
Yep.
like the knowledge of the manufacturing of the printers or anything, they want that and they don't want to do that. So it's like,
Right.
for me, it was like finding these companies that want something produced that don't have the people and like, oh,
Could do
I
all
can
that
sit
for you.
down. Yeah, I can do all that. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I know the questions and how to ask and work with the clients to be able to say, hey,
Mm.
take their idea, prototype it, get feedback from them, and then mass produce the part from them. So it became, I maybe on purpose, maybe inadvertently became like the whole product development house for
Yeah.
some startup companies and some other companies that they don't have engineers in house or they just want a simple little thing designed and made and produced to a
Yeah.
small scale. So it's not just the 3D printing bridge that I'm gapping, it's the engineering side and designing
Hmm.
side and kind of knowing a little bit about um industrial design and stuff like that. It's where you're bridging multiple gaps to get to
Yeah.
get what your clients want for parts.
Yeah. No, it's a very unique skill set in a very unique industry that's what, 40 years old? The 3D printing industry?
Yeah, that's roughly right.
40, maybe 50, getting close to 50. It's something I've reminded myself maybe like every 2 years in this industry. I think I'm at 8 working in the industry now.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it really feels like it's only been around for like 20 years
yeah, yeah,
because
especially
of,
available to the public,
yeah,
right? Like
more available because of how all the
you're not in
IP
a
and
lab
technology
somewhere,
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, you have to remember it is not old, but somewhat,
It's mature and
built
immature
out.
at the same
Yeah,
time.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Or it's mature and underdeveloped.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And, even though these times we were joking about it before we started recording, just like these times are like crazy in that, a lot of people that had secure jobs in the 3D printing industry, the software, the process, those people had jobs that you had tons of work and the pay was good. And now a lot of them don't have jobs anymore
Yeah.
or, are unemployed right now and have been for a while because the industry's not hiring or they left the industry altogether.
Yeah, a lot of them
Um,
won't continue to pursue the industry, so
yep,
we're
yep. And
losing valuable people.
losing valuable people, and also there's this giant opportunity in so many different areas for people like ourselves that are looking for them. There's nothing guaranteed with an opportunity, but it's opportunity nonetheless. That having all of the skills like we have, from hobbyist to employee to running our own companies to serve this industry, you know, we have, like, someone that buys a bamboo printer right now doesn't have the hobbyist skill set, but let's just say figures out enough to run a 3D printer. Well,
Hmm.
the stuff with the tariffs right now and spare parts and material costs that could spike at any given time, a
Yeah.
person like that is going to be in more trouble, is going to have more things to figure out with a smaller skill set, where folks like us, like, let's just say for some reason, you know, the amount of 3D printers from other countries entering the US
Yeah.
stops.
Yeah, that'd be pretty devastating
It'll be
for
devastating, but
uh
the folks like us could raid eBay basically for everyone junking their 3D printer,
hmm.
and we could build a 3D printer with the open source code that's out there, hook it up with hardware that's locally sourceable, and still be able to run 3D printers,
Yep.
and,
We
keep them running.
I think even the people that are buying the bamboo printers and making a business out of it, you know, they're doing, they're not printing one or two of trinkets and
Yeah.
different things, right? They're starting to do batch printing, and even that is like
Hmm.
another skill set that they're gonna have to learn and take on just to be able to do that. So
Hmm.
it's still not as simple as just buying your easiest printer off the
Yeah.
Chinese market. But yeah, it's that's why it's nice that we provide our services because you know your random mom and pop shop or your other company that doesn't necessarily have engineers and stuff, but they have ideas,
Yeah.
we're an easy stepping stone to try to get some of the stuff done. Or even like, startups that want prototypes or is just
Mm.
starting to develop their products and they want to use 3D printing to prototype and test. And it's like, we're a cheaper solution. We can do everything in-house.
Hmm.
We know everything that needs to be known to, take them from the prototyping to the mass manufacturing or have them adopt the technology in-house. So I think there's a lot of people that could utilize companies and there's other companies, some of the bigger print farms and consulting companies offer similar services.
Mm.
Um, but I think getting the word out there that, people like us and some of the other services exist,
Hmm.
that, hey, yeah, you do have an idea and it can be made without completely breaking your budget. It's
Yeah.
not like a fever dream. It's something that you can work with a local business like ours or another
Hmm.
consulting service. And if it's low production stuff that you need in-house for processes or very custom stuff, it's like we're in a world now where that can be made for very little money compared to what you're used to.
Oh yeah, and what it would require. I love the example of like the injection molding machine, right?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
the amount of
100%.
investment capital needed at the beginning before you even make
Hmm.
any of these very cheap parts
Yeah.
is at minimum $100,000, and that's not even for a large tool.
Yeah. And to pay
Um,
that off, you're looking at, producing hundreds of thousands of parts most of the time.
Warehouses full of parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's not something that most people have ever looked at. And I mean, that's the situation of manufacturing in our country, and it has been for a while, but
Hmm.
the education and the actual manufacturing of it. But you made me think of something that has was a shining light in the early days of my 3D printing career, and I think the scenario of someone that comes to us that is looking for a part to have in their hand that they can show to somebody to say, this is my idea.
Hmm.
That powerful thing was also what I framed my first interview around when I got into application engineering. I brought in
Oh,
a part that I printed
yeah,
on my printer, tuned the settings so that it was big. It was a NASA CubeSat model that they had online. And I brought that in, and then I was talking about, where my experience was at the time, and what I thought the technology at the company, which was metal 3D printing, what it could do for the potential of CubeSats in the space industry. I
yeah,
tied all the things that I was passionate about, and then I bet on my strengths, but I also brought a part with me because I know how powerful that is. And that's the same thing that both of our companies offer people.
yeah,
It's like we know the magic of having that thing in your hands. Like even something so simple, like I did a blog post about the business card with the NFC chip in
yeah,
there. The amount of people that get shocked when a plastic color printed part goes over their phone and then it like beeps and it vibrates and it opens up like a website. That is just like that's the moment that people are looking for when they reach out
yeah.
to us or what they need to do to convince someone to invest in their dream. We're the people that help them do that with the 3D printed parts.
That secondary moment too
Yeah.
is like when they're like, you give them the price and you give them the lead time, and they're
Hmm.
like, "Whoa, really?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect it can be done that cheaply and that quickly,
Hmm.
right? Like you said, injection molding, the lead time is crazy,
Yeah.
the upfront cost is crazy. This is
Yeah.
like,
And
yeah,
that's people coming from, well, I know we'll have to build, I know how much, a mold is going to cost and how much
yeah,
only when we succeed.
hmm,
Oh, that's what you're going to charge me now. Like, I'm ready to invest in myself. Let's go. Those
yeah, yeah,
people, that's a great expectation place to start with somebody. But someone that has a business idea and goes to us for one part
yeah,
to then do it and has no idea, they just think plastic parts are cheap.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, you're
that's
right.
a, a harder
There's
expectation.
that other conception,
Yeah, yeah.
misconception that's like, oh, this doesn't cost nothing, right?
Hmm.
But
Well, and
yeah,
things happen like, do you want to own the model afterwards? Like if you had someone
yeah,
design it for you, there's the price of, hey, I'll make this for you. Here's this one part, and I still have the model versus I want the part and I want to own the model. That's a very different pricing structure because you're paying
yeah, yeah.
for, the design work essentially.
Hmm.
Um, very, very different customers to deal
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Yeah, because you still got to think about, we're doing engineering time, designing, and possibly prototyping and testing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a couple different price things going on and not just the part.
Yeah.
So but still I still get like the surprise of what even the bigger companies are like asking for parts. Like, and even the smaller companies, like, yeah, we can, I was just talking to someone trying to do a prototype or something, or was thinking about doing, maybe releasing 100 to 1,000
Cool.
of the product just
Mm,
to at a higher price and possibly just to get people to try it and stuff.
mm,
So like early birds.
mm.
And it's like they were still thinking about doing injection molding. I'm like, wait a second, if we're doing low production model, we're gonna charge them more anyways. We can probably make this work with, some SLA
Hmm.
and some SLS printing because you still want the product to look really good and we need
Hmm.
some clear parts and stuff. So it's like that's still in the realm of 3D printing technology for at least being cheap and be able to
Yeah.
provide that amount of parts.
Hmm.
So it's like people don't realize how many different circumstances and stuff that 3D printing can be utilized to achieve
Right.
what they want. It's still not breaking the budget and, within time spans that they need them.
Yep. And here's that's a perfect example. Like, and this is why you want to listen to Matt here, is because if you spent the $100,000 or more to make a tool to make 1,000 parts on your early bird,
Yeah.
guess what you can't do? Change the design.
And not have to pay a lot more money
Yeah, and
again.
make a whole new tool. Like
Yeah.
that's, it's people's mindset is like we want to be, I don't know, professional or like, well, that's just what everyone does. If they're like a big company and they're
Yeah.
successful, it's like, yeah, but you can you can still manufacture like an early not a like a I'm not gonna even call it a prototype because it could probably just be an
No,
end use part, right?
it's
Like
still an end use part. It's
it's an
still
end
going to
use
function
part
well. It's still going to
like
look
you
well.
can adjust, right? Because the other thing is like you once you cut that metal, you're in. That's it. Maybe
Yeah.
you can make a minor, radius adjustment or something, but you're not changing the size of anything. You're not adding a logo.
Yeah.
You're locked in. And with the 3D printing aspect, you could even change mid manufacturing process if you had to.
Hmm.
Like if you start getting reports in, after you've sent 5 out of 500 and there's some problem that happens in shipping, and you need to make something beefier, you can do that. You
Hmm.
can't do that with the tool option. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a great proof of concept. Even if like, oh, is this mechanically going to work? Oh, let's design it and print it out and see if it mechanically prove your concept of your mechanics, prove the concept of
Yep.
how the shape and aesthetics of the
And the
product looks.
aesthetics, the feel of it too is like such having that 3D printed prototype instead of waiting for the injection molded part is like you learn so much just getting your hands on it. And I don't think there's anything that can move as fast in that area towards something which is usually at the very end of
Yeah.
the process. Like
Hmm.
3D printing, you can make decisions before you even make decisions. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Uh, yeah, no, that's I think that's one of the most powerful things with most of the clients. It's like, yeah, I can have a working prototype to, within a week to a month span, depending on the project.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then they can be like, oh yeah, there's something here, that we can move forward with.
Yeah.
Or then they go, I want 30 or 200 of them, right? So it's like it's that that proof of, even if you're going to, right, like you said, injection molding, or maybe you're gonna get it machined, right?
Yeah.
Even with aesthetics, you can go ahead, you can take it apart and do a little bit of post-processing and get it to look like it would be if it was injection molded or machined or
Yeah.
made out of metal or whatever you want, right? It just lowers the bar for and the price point and the time span for so many different things that a lot of companies aren't utilizing that we know they could utilize, and we can say, hey, you should try doing this, or you should try doing that. You should, there's so many
Yeah.
different ways they can utilize the technology without them even knowing it. And even if they did have it in-house, they might not even know how to, what they can do with the technology.
Yeah. 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 And that's where we see the opportunity here for people like ourselves to help folks out that need to do that, need to bring
Yeah.
an idea into reality.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole magical thing of 3D printing, right? It's in your head, and then we bring it to a physical object for you.
I mean, like that was what I thought the world was when I was a kid. Like growing up, like I wanted a Warturtle so bad growing up. Pokemon, for those that don't know. And like I knew nothing about manufacturing. I didn't have anyone in my family that did anything like that or was an
Hmm.
engineer or anything. So like we were like restaurant people and like I would like take those things and some duct tape and I made a war turtle. You know what I mean? Like that, like a childlike just curiosity and imagination. Like this thing, like a 3D printer, just started to show up right
Yeah.
when I had the means to buy, have my own money and salary from working as an engineer. And it was just like, oh, it's finally here. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
I can finally, I can finally do it.
I can
And
print my war turtle.
it's just been like
Uh,
nonstop, just ideas. It's been a beautiful journey so far, and it's only just started. So yeah,
yeah, that's a good way to wrap it up.
exactly,
Uh,
exactly. So any last words, Matt, on how to get into 3D printing? I think we covered
think covered
Pretty
pretty
much
well.
it.
I think I encourage people to learn about, even the surface level, learn about the
Mm,
technology just to see if it might be applicable for them to use it.
mm,
And then if it is, they should watch more YouTube videos and maybe get their own
mhm.
or reach out to us and see if
Yeah.
we can help them. I think it's it's a tool that's not utilized enough and people won't know how to utilize it or if they can utilize it without learning a little bit more first. And hopefully some stuff like this podcast and other
Hmm.
things that we might do will help uh bring people to think of ideas. I keep saying like you're not going to get 3D printing customers without someone at companies or elsewhere, people having like using their mind and having creative ideas on how to do stuff or make stuff or
Yeah.
um problem solving, needing something that doesn't exist. So it's you need that spark of like
Mm.
creativity and insight to be like, okay, yeah, let's try to do something with 3D printing.
Yeah, and if if you reach out to any of us, like we're here to help add fuel to that fire, like whether you don't even know what the spark is, right? Like you can reach out to us and be like, I have this idea, I think we can make this happen. Like, w how would you do it with 3D printing? That's something that either
Yeah.
of us could tackle, as like a service, if you want to chat for 30 minutes, an hour, like that's something we can do to so that you can tap into our expertise. We can tell you like yes, that's a good idea. No, you're running into a
Hmm.
trap, and even I think we're one of the few ones out there that'll tell you there's some things you probably just shouldn't 3D print. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
and even
And you
that
need
is
those
an
people,
investment.
you need people to tell you that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like having that early, we're at this place in the industry where there are people like Matt and myself offering just our knowledge at the
Hmm.
very least, right? So you don't even need the whole infrastructure within your own company to actually
Yeah.
bring 3D printing to your company.
I think just doing a sit down, talking and understanding what people do in their company and be like, knowing where you could apply the 3D printing and
Right.
telling them that. Like I even thought about, as some type of service or something, just going places and walking around these companies and seeing their processes and how to do stuff and be like,
Hmm.
wait a second, you could improve this or that by having a 3D printed object, a jig, a system, or there's all these little things that other people don't realize that it's like, oh, this can be
Yeah.
made to make my life easier and make me make more money. So it's like, sometimes you just need to talk to someone
Hmm.
and get, our perspective on
Yeah.
different things and us learn, we know a little bit about some different industries, but
Hmm.
even just learning about others and what they're doing and what they could be doing better
Yeah.
if we made them stuff, it's like just that conversation can get some sparks in motion, get some ideas, be like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's worth it because we'll save some money and
Yep.
time.
Fresh eyes and expertise. That's what you're getting from both of us. So, Matt, where can they reach out?
Niche3D.io or Matthew.guy at Niche3D.io and or LinkedIn, Matthew Guy.
And I'm at LinkedIn at Alex G. Orfanos. You can email us at ag3dpartdetective@gmail.com or ag3d.engineering.com. We've got the website ag3d-printing.com and we have our blogs. You can see everything that we do, or get a free quote on a 3D printed part. Our Etsy shop at ag3dprinting.etsy.com. And then the Part Detective, you can book us anytime. So that's it. Thanks for
And
joining us for Layered Insights. Have a great day and stay curious.
keep printing.
Keep printing! Keep printing!